thought about like how cool tongue twisters really are? I mean, they're not just for kids, you know? There's actually a lot more to them than you might think.
Yeah, it's easy to just see them as like, silly little things, but they tap into something really basic about how we use language. It's kind of like it's why you find them all over the world in so many different cultures.
Right, like we're onto something with these things. So today we're diving deep into all that. We're taking excerpts from Lingualid's guide on mastering English tongue twisters. We'll really get into like why they're so great for language learning, public speaking, you name it.
Yeah, the guide brings up some really fascinating stuff about like how they're used in speech therapy even, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah, and one thing they really hit on is how good tongue twisters are for your pronunciation and like your fluency when you're talking.
What?
And they even get into some really cool stuff about where they come from,
Mhm.
like the history of all this.
It's kind of amazing when you think about it.
Yeah.
Like the science behind how we speak, using tongue twisters is kind of like it's like going to the gym, but for your mouth.
Yeah.
You're training those muscles. And so when you're repeating those sounds, especially the ones that are kind of hard to get out, it's like it helps you smooth out your speech and be more precise, when you talk.
Yeah, I totally agree. I remember I actually used tongue twisters to prep for a big presentation I had a while back. I was super nervous, terrified. I was going to totally freeze up in front of everyone. And I don't know, I just started practicing. Peter Piper picked a peck.
Yeah.
And honestly, it really helped. Like, it made a big difference.
Really. What do you think it was about it that, like, helped you in that moment?
Well, okay, so first, it actually did loosen up my tongue, like, physically.
Yeah.
But then on top of that, I think it just kind of, like, it stopped me from overthinking, My brain was so busy trying to, like, get the tongue twister right that it didn't have the energy to freak out about the actual presentation anymore.
That's really interesting. I've never thought about it like that. It's like, when people do those breathing exercises to calm down, that kind of thing.
Totally.
Yeah, you're just kind of redirecting that energy into something else.
Exactly. And the guide even talks about how it can help when you're learning another language.
Oh, definitely.
Which makes a lot of sense. Like if you're trying to wrap your head around totally new sounds.
Absolutely, yeah. Tongue twisters can be so valuable for that.
Right. So no matter what you're here for, right? Like if you want to nail a presentation or learn a new language, or just like even if you just want to have a little fun with how you speak, this deep dive is for you. So you ready to try out some of these tongue twisters ourselves?
Yeah, let's do it. I'm really interested to kind of break down like what makes them so tricky.
Yeah. Well, this article, it actually has like a whole list, 50 tongue twisters.
Wow.
50. We obviously can't get to all of them, but we picked out a few that we can kind of, test out together.
Sounds good.
So this first one, this is like the classic, right? She sells seashells by the seashore.
Yeah.
I feel like everyone kind of knows that one. But did you know that it might be based on a real person?
Oh, really?
Yeah. There was this woman named Mary Anning. She was a fossil collector, like back in the 1800s. And she like literally dug for a living.
Wow. So she was like really out there on the seashore then?
Yeah, she was like knee deep in seashells all the time. So, I mean, it kind of fits, right?
It totally does. And it makes sense, because that tongue twister really gets you with those S's, all those sibilants. They can be tough.
Oh, yeah, you know what? You're totally right. Now I feel like I need a linguistics refresher. What exactly is a sibilant again?
Oh, it's just, it's a fancy word for a sound that's like kind of hissy. Like when you push air through a small space in your mouth, it's so like S's and cheeses and stuff.
Okay, right. Because you do kind of have to like
Yeah.
force the air out to make their sounds. And in she sells seashells, you've got like a ton of them right next to each other.
Exactly. And like your tongue has to move so precisely to get it right. Like it has to be just behind your teeth for the S, but then a little further back for the SH.
Yeah.
And it's going back and forth, back and forth. It's such a subtle difference, but it's easy to mess up.
It's like you really notice how much work your tongue is doing
Right.
when you actually slow down and pay attention.
Absolutely. And I mean, I think that's kind of the point with tongue twisters, right? To really hone in on those sounds we make without even thinking about it.
Yeah, it's like a workout for your mouth.
Exactly.
So should we try it out? She sells seashells by the seashore.
Let's do it.
How'd we do?
Not bad.
All right, so I've got another one. This one always like reminds me of being a kid. How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood?
Oh, a classic. It's a mouthful, that's for sure.
It really is. And what is it about that one. Is it the W's?
Yeah, I think the W sound is definitely part of it. Like, you have to round your lips and push your breath out.
Right.
But then you've got that CH sound coming in right after. And the word woodchuck itself is just kind of a mouthful.
Woodchuck, yeah, it's like two words in one.
Yeah. And they repeat it like 3 times in a row. It's a recipe for a tongue twister for sure.
And that's what I think makes them work so well. Like, yeah, they're tricky, but you kind of want to keep trying just to get it right.
You're basically isolating those sounds. Yeah. And then repeating them over and over.
Yeah, like you said, it's like a workout, but for your mouth.
And everyone likes a challenge, right? Okay, ready for one more. This one always makes me think of like kids trying to show off, like seeing who can say it fastest. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Ooh, yeah, that's a good one. You've got all those P's, right? That plosive sound, it's like you have to really stop the air and then let it out.
Yeah.
And then the K sound right after picked, pickled, like your tongue is going up and down.
Up and down.
And then just when you think you've got it, there's that R sound at the end, pepper.
He's like a whole obstacle course for your mouth.
Right. And it's all packed into this one little phrase. I think that's what I like about tongue twisters. It's like, they shouldn't be that hard to say. But then you try it.
Totally, totally. They turn language into this whole game. It's like, you know the rules, but then can you actually play?
Exactly. And each time you mess up, it's like you learn something new about how you're actually using your mouth.
Yeah, you're like, oh, I'm putting my tongue in the wrong spot.
Exactly.
That's so cool. But okay, so we've been talking about all these classic tongue twisters, but like, what if you want to make your own?
Oh, I love that. It's really fun to try.
It is, it is. And this article, from Lingualid, it actually has some tips on how to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not just about like randomly putting sounds together.
No, there's definitely a strategy to it.
Yeah, like there's an art to it or something.
Yeah.
What are some of the things they talk about?
Well, alliteration is huge. Like using the same sound at the beginning of a bunch of words in a row. It's what makes them so catchy.
Oh, for sure. Like busy as a bee or like even Peter Piper from before.
Exactly. Our brains just kind of latch onto those repeating sounds.
They do. What else? What else? Give me more tricks.
Okay, let's see. Oh, rhyming is another good one. It kind of adds this like musicality to the tongue twister, makes it fun to say out loud. If a dog chews shoes, whose shoes does he choose?
Ooh, see, that's good because it's got the rhyme, but then it's also got that repetition with the chew sound. That's really clever.
Right. It just flows off the tongue, even if it is a mouthful.
It does, it does. And actually, speaking of things that flow, the article mentions this rule of three, like having three of something.
Oh yeah, it's just this idea that things are more satisfying in threes. Like our brains like patterns. So if you have 3 words that start with the same sound or 3 rhyming words, it makes the tongue twister more memorable and impactful and just more fun to say.
Okay, so alliteration, rhyming, and the rule of three. Those are our building blocks for a top-tier brain-bending tongue twister.
Exactly. Just have fun with it. Try different sounds, different combinations of words. I think you'll be surprised what you come up with.
Yeah, this has been awesome. It's like we've gone from just saying silly phrases to like really understanding why they work.
Yeah, we've dug into like the science behind it, a little bit of history, even some creative writing.
Totally. Who knew tongue twisters could be this deep? So the next time you're, just hanging out or maybe you need a little brain boost, give a tongue twister a try. You might even come up with your own. We had a blast talking about them with you today, and we'll see you next time for another deep dive.